Okay, let's talk about fear a little bit. Fear has always been, I always used to call it my favorite emotion because I had to deal with it so often. And I remember that whenever I would deal with it effectively, it would help me a lot. And hence I started to like it. But obviously, it's not always been fun. Um, the problem with fear is that we generally try to get away from it, obviously. You know, it's not pleasurable, people run away. When your day is filled with fear, you'll say, this has been a particularly bad day. And quite quickly, obviously, you come up with an idea. How am I going to improve this? How am I going to get away from fear? Um, you may try to distract yourself, look at videos, talk to your friends. Just don't think about it, which I don't know may help. Actually, maybe just distract yourself, get your mind off of it. Um, that's I think what a lot of people do. Some people will just have patience, wait. They'll be like, well, tomorrow will be better, and probably will, right? Everything's impermanent, so it's fear. So usually it does go away. Nobody ever just remains in fear for like a month or something like that. That doesn't exist. Um, or you will start to look into it. Why am I afraid? How can I fix it? Where is this coming from? Which may make sense actually. There's probably thoughts. There's always a thought that creates your fear, right? And usually it's like a thought desire, right? You have the desire for something, either to keep something or to move towards something, and this is being threatened, right? It can be anything, like you're really looking forward to going to the candy store tomorrow, but it looks like you can't because the candy store burnt down, or you have to work on a project for school or work, so you can't. And as soon as you get that, you get this fear, like, oh no, I'm not going to have that fun. Or something that you have a nice car, and it looks like you won't be able to pay for it anymore. Oh shit, you feel that fear. Is this? I may, I have to make sure that situation doesn't happen. These are very basic examples. Some are super subtle, and it's really almost impossible to find out where the thought comes from. It can be subconscious, can be from 100 years ago. You just feel, fearful all of a sudden. So yeah, you try to figure out what is the thought. You try to figure out where did it come from. Let's say you find such a thought, like the ones I just described. You find it. And then you go like, okay, I have to let go of it. I have to destroy those thoughts. That never helps, does it? The thought never. It's from that perspective, the thoughts always turn out to be invincible. They're there. You can't wish them away or suppress them. The fear is still there. So that's usually the problem, right? That we have. You can't get rid of fear. It just comes. It's just there. So what to do then, right? What to do with fear? There's a lot of spiritual teachings that say, you just note it, let it move along. Just note it, and it'll pass, right? Just be aware of it. Just be mindful of it, and let it go. Which makes sense, but in reality it's so hard. You can meditate for years, right? And you see fear coming. And a lot of times actually you think that is what I'm doing. I'm just letting it go, But somewhere, when you see fear, you want it to go away. Even, by loving it or giving it all your attention, your motivation is still to make it go away. And that's something it's very hard to, or maybe even impossible to let go of. And then you go like, oh, I have this knowledge now. I see the mechanism. I want this to go away, and it just creates these endless cycles. I want this to go away. I can't, this mechanism stops it from going away. Okay, I want that mechanism to go away. And then you see that. I want that to go away. A lot of times that ends up with like the self, right? The fact that I have a separate self is creating all these desires for it to go away because I want to protect myself from this fear. I want myself to be happy. And then you go like, okay, the self is at the center of all this. I want the self to go away, right? And that's also what Buddha taught, there is no self and blah, blah, blah. So you go like, okay, if there is no self, I want to see that there is no self, which again, effectively means you're trying to get rid of the self. So always trying to get rid of these things, getting rid, I want to rid myself and then it'll be okay. Rid it, get rid of it. And you may even see that, right? I want to get rid of all this shit, all of it. And that, you go like, oh, that's the mechanism, right? But as soon as you say, oh, that's the mechanism that's causing all this, you want it to go away. The desire just comes out. So you're still doing the same thing. So you'll never get to the end of it. You'll never, right? And you can go in different directions and go like, love or compassion, but they're just the same route. And that's the exhaustion that a lot of people talk about. It gets so exhausting, there's no way out, right? So how to deal with this, right? You can't deal with this. Dealing is another way of saying I want it to go away. I want to figure it out. So you can't. You just can't. There is no way out, right? Enlightenment, I've looked for it. I found things that looked like it, but it was just the same thing. It was just trying to get rid of it on some super subtle level. And it was just pass. It was just pass. Always pass. Nothing is permanent, like Buddha said. But even that knowledge, right, of impermanence, it's pretty universal, right? It's very hard to deny. But it's not going to do anything for you. Even that, the knowledge of impermanence is probably impermanent and probably has no essence to it, no self. Like the Buddha said, it's impermanent, it's suffering, and there's no self in it. Even in that knowledge, dependent arising, all those things, you have this, as others have said, this inherent emptiness to them as well. And even that, the knowledge of emptiness, that's not going to help either. Nothing is going to help. So, where does that leave you? That leaves you unfinished, actually, is where that leaves you. Incomplete. Yeah, incomplete. You're just incomplete. Nothing you can do about it. I can't really tell you this. Like everyone understands that, right? There is, no matter what happens, there's something that accepts it, right? Like the Second World War, terrible. But there's still life. It's still things exist. Life still goes on, right? It doesn't stop. So there's something that accepts it, even that, right? In all your worst emotions, worst moments, all that, everything is accepted, right? So there is such a thing. But that knowledge doesn't help you, but it does exist, right? Even if you die, that still is there, and that is fine. Does that comfort you in daily life? No, it doesn't at all. It's useless. That knowledge, at least. But there is an acceptance somewhere, right? Like, what if you do? Like, what if everything is okay? So we've talked about this. Everything seems to be extremely chaotic. There's no way out. There's no enlightenment. There's no hope. The structure is impregnable. If you see a gap, it's not really a gap, it's just more of the same. So it's hopeless. Yet, there is this, right? And I'm not talking about the present moment, because the present moment is a goal, right? It's a lobotomy of past and future. You want to get rid of those and just be here. And then you end up in this void, desolate land, which is super uninteresting. And you go like, no, it is interesting. It is interesting. I swear to God, I swear, it is interesting. Just keep it in now. Keep it in now. Deny the past, present. Deny them. Deny them. Deny them. Deny them. And that doesn't help either, right? But there is this, right? There is something. There is something. But it includes past, future, present. It includes all the chaos that we just talked about. It includes enlightenment. It includes my cat. It includes everything, right? And you can't deny that's existence. It does exist. It's not separate from anything. So this is the thing where you say you can't talk about it, but you see, the whole thing is chaos, but there is something. So let's say that we've realized this, right? This is a realization. We now know something, right? This ultimate acceptance force that is not something, that is not separate, that is in everything, cannot be caught, is completely empty. It doesn't exist, nor does it not exist. I always like pointing towards from that angle, like Nagarjuna did. So we have this realization, right? It may even make us feel better, right? Maybe I feel better now. You go like, okay, this is valuable. I'm going to attach to it. Things are going to be better now because I've had this realization. And of course we know that's impermanent, so it's going to cause suffering because we're clinging to something, right? And then you go like, I shouldn't do that, but maybe we should. Maybe we should cling to it. Maybe it's inevitable. Maybe it's already done, and maybe it's fine. It'll have its effect. We will see its effect. We will suffer later because of this. Right? Things will begin to change. Maybe we will lose our realization of what we just kind of realized just now, right? And there'll be pain there, right? But maybe that is fine, Maybe, I'm not saying that we should accept it. This is not a method. It just is fine, right? We're going to suffer. We don't know this either, right? Maybe we won't. I don't know. Did you see? Did you see what I'm saying? The whole thing is chaos. But it doesn't matter, right? It just doesn't matter. That it is. All this stuff that we talked about is going to cause terrible emotions. If you look at them, are they really that terrible? That's the thing. You can say everything. They are terrible, but they're also not. So I think we've arrived at the end of this one. It's already become way too wide. Just remember, we had a realization. It's better now, and then it's going to get worse. But that doesn't matter. And that's the realization. And the realization is going to cause pain, which is still the realization. Or it's going to keep on creating happiness. Also the realization. Yeah.